Welcome back to Kathy's Kitchen, where anything can happen, but it always turns out delicious. Tonight we're going to be doing spinach chicken tortellini soup, which is one of our family's favorite winter soups. And yes, I know it's spring, but where we're at is still winter, it's cold. And we're also going to do crusty bread. This is going to be available for my Patreons to look at the beginning of it, but we're going to finish it off. So before we start, look at the list of ingredients and tools that you need and make sure you have them out real quick. Okay, also,
we don't have any viewers at this point, just so you know.
we are going to go ahead and start the oven and for the crusty bread. And what I need to do is I need to take my cast iron Dutch oven and I'm going to put it in the oven and turn the oven on to 450 degrees. This is going to make our bread crusty in the oven. So we're going to do that, and once it heats up, then we'll add the bread to it. A fresh bread is always a nice way. However, crusty bread does take 18 to 24 hours to make, so it's a commitment to make ahead of time. I don't blame anybody that wants to take and go to the store and start it that way. So, this soup started out as a vegetarian soup, and I have changed it into added the chicken. If you don't eat chicken, you can change it, leave it out, or you can change the chicken broth to vegetable broth. It can be made any way you need. If you are gluten-free, if you can find gluten-free tortellinis, you're welcome to use those. And you can change the flour in the recipe to cornstarch. So that will make it so you can do the recipe according to your needs. Also, if you drink wine, I suggest Merlot with this menu because it is Italian. So make sure you get yourself a glass of Merlot and sip along with us. Merlot is a wonderful wine, but remember, once you open it, it must sit and air out before you start drinking it. Otherwise, the flavor will not be very nice. So, is everybody with me and got their stuff together, and are they ready? So we're going to start out with, I'm going to use prep bowls. On this soup recipe, it goes together really quickly, but I like to do all my prep first before I start putting it together. It's just a much easier way. So we're going to need 4 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to get myself a little dish here and my cube of butter. It's basically a half a cube of butter. It's a quarter of a cup, 4 tablespoons. And I'm going to cut it into pieces so that when I throw it into the bottom of my kettle, it will melt quickly for me. So just cut it up, put it in your dish. Pretty easy. But in the long run, this will make your cooking a lot easier for you. And it'll keep anything that you throw while you're waiting, it keeps your butter from burning. And this recipe does not call for brown butter, so we want to make sure that we don't brown it. So we're going to set that aside. And then our next step is going to be to mince our onion. So we have an onion here. Little information about onions. Onions give off an ethylene gas. Also, garlic does the same thing. That gas, if you put it next to your potatoes, your tomatoes, your bananas, is going to over-ripen or make things sprout. It also, if you put your potatoes next to your onions and garlic, they will start tasting like your onions and garlic. So I highly recommend against that. So they all need to be stored in a cool, dark place to keep them to last longer. You can store your onions and your garlic together, but not your potatoes. And they will last, if you do as I told you, and put them in a basket of some kind and keep them dark, they'll last 3 to 6 months in that situation. So when I'm chopping up an onion, I find it easiest if I take and I cut it this way. I'm going to show you how to hand chop it, and then I use a food chopper because I like, well, some of my family does not like their onions in chunks in their food, so I mince it, and that makes it so everybody's happy. We get the flavor of onion without the big bites of onion. So you can cut it however makes your family the happiest. This is a Santuka knife. I enjoy using it when I'm chopping because it's small. So you want to cut these up fairly small. You don't want large chunks in here because we're going to have large chunks of other things. The tortellini's large and stuff. You don't want it to be competing with your tortellinis. So here's my prep bowl. Put it in there. And when I'm using prep bowls, whatever step I'm on, I put all those things together. Because then I don't have to think when I'm putting it into the kettle. I can just go from one step to the next. So, how many people, also, a little tip, a lot of people have problems with crying when they're cutting up onions. I, on the other hand, do not have that problem, luckily, but a lot of people do. If you do not cut the root of your onion off, and you just cut it up, peel it, and chop it up, you will not cry, because when you cut the onion, it releases all the juices in the onion out into the air, and so that's why you cry. So you can do that. I do know they say to run it in cold water. I have never gotten that to work. I've seen people wear masks. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but sunglasses, but I find that that's the best method. Also, if you're not going to use your whole onion, that's another way. Leave the root on, and the onion will stay fresh until you're ready to cut it up after you put it in the fridge. So, put those in there. We got our onion ready. We'll put it over here with our butter. So it's a pretty simple process. We're now going to move on to our chicken, and I'm still use gloves. It just makes it easier, and you don't get it all under your hands, and you don't have to worry about any of that bacteria off of your chicken getting on your hands. So, put on some gloves, and got a bowl over here. Get our chicken breasts. This recipe you can use 1 or 2 chicken breasts. We use 1 because I'm not much of a chicken eater. And so that makes it so that I can get soup without chicken in it. If you like a lot of chicken in your soup, then you can put 2. It's a matter of preference. So, this is going to be what I'm going to show you with this soup is a method I use so that everything is cooked in one pot and you don't have to do anything ahead of time. You can use this in any recipe of soup that you're making, the way we're going to make this soup. We will also make our roux in our pot and everything, and that way it's much easier. So we're going to cube our chicken up. First of all, I butterfly it, and then I cube it. The reason I butterfly it is it makes it easier to make even cubes. You don't want too big of bites because they need to be able to fit on a spoon, and also in someone's mouth, because people do not want to eat their soup with a knife. So, throw that in there. Also, once again, this knife and cutting board will go in the sink because chicken has contaminants, and you cannot cut on this cutting board till it is washed and sterilized again, or use this knife. So we got our chicken. That's what it looks like, all cut up. Okay, so now we've had a couple people join. I want to make sure that you've gotten caught up. Let Izetta over there know if you're okay, or if we continue if you want me to hold off for a second.
You can recap what you've done so far.
Okay, first of all, let me remove my chickies. First of all, we cut up our butter, our 4 tablespoons of butter, into a bowl. We're putting everything in prep bowls before we start. So we did that. We minced up 1 onion, and I chopped up 1 breast into cubes. So that's where we're at right now. I also am showing you the end of my crusty bread, which is done in a Dutch oven a Dutch oven in the oven. Oof, that's hard to say. Also, I slaughter words on a regular basis. So this is something that's going to be up. I am starting a Patreon, and there's going to be advanced recipes on there, recordings that people can watch on there. That is not up yet, but it will be going up. So those are the 3 things we've done so far. Let me see what we need to do next. Okay, so this is I know you guys are relieved. You do not have to do 5 million pieces of garlic for this recipe. I do like garlic, and I try to keep garlic. I use garlic a lot, but this recipe only has 5 cloves. I know you guys are excited to hear that. So we're going to get 5 cloves out, and we're going to peel them. You can mince them either with your garlic press or with your, on your cutting board, like I've showed you guys. And I don't know how good these, one of the things I like to do is I like to get myself a little piece of paper towel and put all my garlic stuff on there, because garlic is sticky and I don't like touching it. So here we are. So I'm going to sit and peel this. Hopefully I'm, oh, nope, see, that one wasn't good. I didn't buy this at my regular place, and so I'm a little, I was having a hard time finding garlic. Okay, there we go, that's a good one. So we're going to get this one peeled. Now this soup, I will tell you, does not freeze well. Due to the dairy and the pasta being in it, it just doesn't, it becomes more like a casserole if you freeze it. So I'm going to suggest that you only make as much as you can eat. Or you can share. Simply because that's just not, it just doesn't save well in the freezer. It doesn't go bad, I just don't like the consistency of it when I take it out of the freezer and reheat it. And that's a personal preference, I'm sure. So, peel our garlic, which is not any fun, as you guys told me last week. But, you know, at least we picked one. Also, next week we're going to be doing chicken fried chicken or chicken fried steak. I do the method the same with both, so you can make your choices. And we will also be making mashed potatoes and a oven roasted vegetable, most likely green beans. But you can choose your favorite to go with that. And we will also be making gravy, so it's going to be a true southern meal. If I could find fresh okra up here, I'd make fried okra, but yeah, it's still winter up here, so no. Now this is a little trick I found. I'm going to be putting my crushed pepper that goes into my recipe in here. If you put that in first before you put your garlic, it won't stick to the bottom of your bowl so easily. So that's just a little trick. So I need to find my measuring spoon I threw around here. It says 1 to 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper. If you put 2, it's going to be really spicy. So our family is a 1.5 family. So we use 1.5 teaspoons of crushed red pepper. And see that in the bottom? You can also leave it out. If you don't want any spice whatsoever, you can leave it out. So we're going to get this crushed. I heard the oven go off, so it's time for me to finish off the bread, which will give you guys time to catch up with me if you're behind. So let's get this garlic finished here. Once again, make sure you store your garlic in a dark, cool place so it lasts for 3 to 6 months. Mine's lucky to last 36 hours in my house. We go through it so fast. I often have to shop a couple times a week for it. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside here. And we're going to work on our crusty bread. Now, before I take it out of the oven, it's in this bowl right here. I've covered it with a damp, wet towel and a piece of plastic wrap, and I left it for 24 hours. This is what it looks like. And let me tell you, it smells heavenly. It has garlic and rosemary in it. So we're going to get ourselves a little pan here. We're going to dust it with flour, and we're going to dump it out into there. You need to be very gentle. We want it to be airy, but we want it to be chewy on the outside. So we're going to take it out. There it is. And we're just going to gently form it into a ball. There we have it. Let me get a hot pad. I need a paper towel first. I got too much stuff. Okay. Get a hot pad out. I'm going to put the right here. We heated it to 450 degrees to make this bread crusty. And here's our pan. As you can see, there's nothing in the pan. Okay, you don't put anything in here. And then you gently pick it up and gently put it in so you do not hurt yourself. Don't get burned. There you go. It's in there. See how it looks? Woo, that looks good. Put the lid back on it. Put it back in the 450 degree oven. And we're going to bake that for 30 minutes. Alexa, set a timer for 30 minutes. Okay, so now we can forget about that. It's done. We're done with that for now. This is really quite an easy mix. I think it took me maybe 10 minutes to mix it up. It took me longer to mince the garlic and the rosemary than it did to make the bread. It's a matter of starting ahead of time. Plus, I love being able to add my own flavors. I added rosemary and garlic, but you can use almost any herb or cheese or anything you like in it. So, back to what we were doing. Okay, it says I need to put 1/4 cup of flour. So the flour is going to go into this little bowl here. Once again, I'm using my pickle jar. I love, because every time I'm cooking, it reminds me of my grandmother, and because it was hers at one time. This is all-purpose flour. And if you notice, I'm lining up in line as I use them. I'm going to move them to the stove in the same method. That way, I'm still looking at my recipe, but I'm not, it's easier not to mess up. So, and like I said, anything can happen in here. I am always a hot mess. Now, my grandmother loves soup. And you're going to say, well, a lot of people love soup. No, I mean, my grandmother loves soup. She had soup every day for lunch. Every day. Not a day off. She always had a sandwich and soup. So, I grew up in a family with a lot of soup. So, we're going to move on. The next thing we need to do is get our chicken paste ready. See what I mean? Tomato paste ready. I have a little trick. I'm only going to use 2 tablespoons of this. Well, there's a lot more than 2 tablespoons in here. So a long time ago, I was like, well, throwing the rest away after I use only 2 tablespoons is really a waste. But if I put it in the freezer, it's really a problem because it's hard to get out of the freezer. So I need some way to do that. So first of all, I get myself my 2 tablespoons. As you can see, I'm not precise because I feel like you cannot have too much tomato paste, but you know, some people feel differently. So you take it, put it in like that, put it here. Now, get yourself a Ziploc baggie. And then I get a tablespoon, like the big soup spoons, one of these. And you take it and you put it in, and that's approximately as close as you can get to a tablespoon. And you open your Ziploc bag and you go all the way to the bottom, hold it like this, and scoop it off. And so I do that with all the excess, and I separate them out. Then when it's frozen, and my recipe says 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, whatever, I can pop it out of the freezer and get what I need, and I don't have to open another can. And yes, I realize they're only 50 cents, but it adds up. So this is, and then seal it up. And yes, I'm messy. My daughter told me that last time. She goes, your work area was a pit, so I'm trying to keep it cleaner. So this is what it's going to look like when it goes in the freezer. You can see it has 3 tablespoons in it. And this is going to be easy for me to pop out and use in future recipes. That way you don't have to throw the excess away. And you don't have to dirty a measuring spoon next time. So it makes it really nice. Okay. Now we need to shred up our cheese. I like this shredder because it sets it down and I can move it around. There's lots of shredders. I mean, you cannot have too many shredders. I have so many shredders, it's ridiculous. But this is my favorite. So, we're using the parmigiano, reggiano, and dear me, dear Lord, I cannot pronounce anything. So please don't hold it against me. That is, actually the name of it is where it is made in Italy. The last name is the region, and the first name means, oh boy, hold on. Let me see if I can remember. I think I wrote down what that means. Okay, maybe I did. Anyway, it comes from Italy, the 12th century. They usually age it for 12 months to 30 years. The longer it's aged, the more expensive. A lot of people say this is the same as Parmesan. Not the same. Parmesan is inspired by this cheese, but it is not the same. They are both hard cheeses. And the other day I made my daughter's Alfredo sauce with this, and she was like, this is the best Alfredo sauce you've ever made, Mom. What'd you do different? Well, there you go. I put in this instead of Parmesan. It originally was made by the Benedict monks, and they still do it today. That's all they do, and it's made in that area. And I'm trying to think if there's something else you should know about Parmesan. Oh, no, I don't think so. I like it. It also needs to be stored dry and kept dry. Don't let it get moist because that will ruin it. So we need a cup of it. And also I like to do a little extra. I'm going to do a little extra because we need to be able to use it on top of our soup afterwards. Also, remember we made croutons last week? You can use croutons on top of your soup. You can use your crusty bread with it. I mean, there's so many things you can do on top of your soup. And you can add, we're going to do extra basil leaves, so you can do that. I will tell you that basil is optional in here because I do know there's people that don't like basil flavor. So, let's see how much we got here and if I need to open my other block. Look how nice that looks. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, I have a scraper somewhere. Maybe I should find it sometime. Okay, let's open this guy up because we don't have quite a cup. This is gonna make this is like the chef's kiss on your, this and the fresh basil is just a fresh kiss on your. on top of your soup. Okay. So now we have the cup to go inside of it. And I'll make a little more because I know my family. They love cheese. I was going to say we're a cheesy family, and that sounded stupid. So, and for those of you that think I'm usually funnier, I am usually funnier if I'm bouncing off of other people, but I'm just talking to myself. I'm not so funny. So, bear with me. Ask me something that maybe that'll make me funnier. Okay. Any questions? So we got our cheese ready. And I'm going to dump this off here. Oh, I better clean up my mess. Okay, our next thing is we're going to do 8 ounces of spinach. And people are like, whoops, that's really loud. Well, how much is 8 ounces of spinach? And yeah, I don't know. I keep a scale, and I put my bowl on it and make sure it's zeroed out and put it into ounces. This is 16 ounces of spinach, so it's about half of this. So we're going to take our spinach out and we're going to roughly chop it up. And that means not minced. There's my chopping knife. So you're going to, I find that if you just kind of gather it together with your hand, and then just kind of do this, see how that's doing kind of rough chop there? I don't like the stems, so if I see a stem, I take it off and throw it in the trash. It's a personal thing. You don't have to do that. Throw it in my bowl. That was 2 ounces, if that tells you anything about how light and fluffy spinach is, but how good it is for you. It's full of iron. So if you take iron, be careful. It also will thin your blood, so if you're on blood thinners, you should not be eating this. Or you need to check with your doctor before doing so. So, you want to chop this up. Just keep on chopping up until you get, maybe I should put a measuring cup on here, so since you guys probably don't have a scale, it would make it easier for you guys to know how many cups of spinach you had to chop up. Hold on, let's change containers. Okay, we're at 5 ounces so far. We need 3 more ounces. This recipe originally called for 10 ounces, and I just thought that was way too much spinach in my soup. So chop it up. I always buy spinach that is washed and ready to use. Some people don't like to do that. It just makes it easier. I don't have to worry about washing it and getting it dry. Because if you buy it super fresh, and I mean, that's good if you're going to have time to do all that, but in a soup, I don't want that excess water coming in. So there we are at about, nope, that's like 10 ounces. Well, it's going in. This is like 10 ounces, and it's 8 cups. So I would say, let's see, 9 cups is 8 ounces. So you're going to need about 9 to 10 cups of spinach. You do however much makes you happy. We use a lot of fresh spinach. I do buy my spinach like this in a plastic container because it keeps better than in the bags. In the bags, it has a tendency to get gummy. So you're going to need to take it out of those bags if you're going to use it over a period of a week. Alrighty, now for our basil. We need at least 1/4 of a cup to go in the soup, and then we need more to go on top. I am ready for a season where I can just go out and pick my basil. Also, another good topping to this is pesto. Is also nice to put on top. So we're going to pick it off the stems. We do not want the stems in with our leaves. So all we want is leaves. So just kind of pick off your good leaves. Tomorrow I will post up the video of this. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can find me on YouTube and you can find the recipe there. And the recipe is posted below. You will not find the crusty bread recipe, but you will find the soup recipe. Crusty recipe will be on my Patreon page. So that's a 1/4 of a cup. Now I'm going to put some extra in there because, like I said, my family likes to toss it on top. And I personally don't think there's such a thing as too much basil. Some people would disagree with me, but some people don't like it. The flavor of it, some people compare it to licorice or other stuff. I personally love the flavor of basil. My dad hates it, so I have to be careful. When I cook for him, he won't eat it. Also, little trick, if you want to do it really small, you can roll your leaves up and cut them up. That's just a little trick. But I just kind of do them the same as I do my spinach because I don't want it that small. My soup. Alrighty. So we're going to recap. Then we're going to put the thing up and change the camera. And while we're doing that, that'll give you guys a chance to get caught up. Once again, you need to have 4 tablespoons of butter, 1 chopped onion, 1 to 2 breasts of chicken, cubed, raw, 1 to 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper with 5 minced garlic, 1/4 cup of flour, our tomato paste. I have our chicken broth, tortellini, and sun-dried tomatoes over at the stove because there's really not any prep for those. A cup of shredded cheese, 7 to 8 cups of chopped spinach, and I did a cup of chopped basil because I'll have leftover to put on top of the salad. Also, I almost forgot. I'm going to put my basil in here. We need to measure out our half and half heavy cream. So I'm going to add it in here, and that's going to be 2 cups of heavy cream. So we're going to put this on mute, give you a chance to catch up, and we're going to move stuff around, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get this soup made for our hungry family and our thing. We're going to turn on the stove. I'm going to turn it on to medium, and I'm going to dump my butter in and let it melt. Just kind of stir it around. We want it to melt in there, and the kettle is warming up while we're doing this. So I want to tell you a little bit about tortellinis. I really didn't realize. I thought they'd been around forever, but evidently they were actually coming apart. Somebody developed them in 1950 in Italy because they were tired of the raviolis always falling apart in their water. And the first part of tortellini means the torta means cake or pie in Italian. And this guy claims that invented them. He claims that he had the goddess of Venus stay at his hotel. So he went and looked through the keyhole, and when he looked in, he saw her beauty and her belly button, and he designed the tortellini shape after her belly button. I highly doubt that's true, but that's the legend. So we'll go with it. It sounds good. So we're going to add our onions. And I think you can turn it up to medium high. You just want your onions to kind of go along there, and you want them to cook about 5 minutes or until they are translucent. So it takes a minute to get them going. You're going to start smelling them. But you want those to be cooked good because everything kind of goes in here quickly, and we don't want our onions not to be fully cooked. Also, if you're using a wooden spoon, a little tip, don't leave it in your food. It will make your food taste like wood, so always take your spoon out and your metal spoons. Never leave your spoons in your food. It's not a good idea. So while that's cooking, I'm going to bring over my garlic and my red pepper because that's what's going to go in next. So I try to keep myself orientated by looking at it. It makes it easier. If you're drinking red wine, go ahead and take a sip of that because this doesn't really, you don't need to worry it. As my kids tell me, Mom, stop it, leave it alone. It'll be fine. You don't need to do it. I do have a large soup kettle because I don't like things boiling over. It causes too much effort to clean up. And I don't like things dirty, but I hate to clean. So I know that's a catch-22, but here we are.
How many servings does this recipe make?
This recipe makes about 6 servings. I would say 6 medium-sized to large servings. Small servings is going to make more like 10. So we're going to serve it in a large flat soup bowl, pasta bowl. And it would make 6 of these. So my onions are simmering away. As you can see, I don't know if you can see them in the bottom of the kettle or not. Isetta tried to make it so you guys can see.
Yes, they can see.
Good. She made it so you guys could see better. Because last time all you had to look at is me, and that's dreadful. You have to look for, you want to see what the cook what the food looks like. So there we go. We're cooking along. If you're not sure what 5 minutes is, feel free to set a timer. I'm not good with that. I only do it when I'm baking because that's a necessity. So I'm looking in here and my onions are starting to look translucent. Translucent means clear. They're going to change in color. So you're going to be able to see through them. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my little bowl of garlic and red pepper sauce flakes. And I'm going to stir that in. And this is going to cook for about 1 minute till it is fragrant, meaning you can smell the garlic easily. Not sticking your head in the kettle, but by just standing here, you can smell it. If you can smell it, That is fragrant. That is what it means by fragrant. Some people are like, I don't understand what that means. So that's why a lot of times those recipes will say fragrant and some say a minute. We're now going to add our chicken in here to cook. Now this is that next important step where we have to make sure our chicken is completely cooked. And the reason I do the garlic and onions first is so that my chicken can pick up that flavor. You don't want your chicken to be blah. This is also a good time to add some salt and pepper in to taste. I'm going to say anywhere from a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Don't get carried away because your chicken broth is going to have some in it. So you don't want to have too much salt. People can always add salt. They cannot take it away. And add some black pepper. Now this is going to have to be stirred a little more. This chicken, you don't want it to cook all on just one side. We want our chicken to we don't want our chicken tough, but we do want it done. So kind of spread it out over the bottom. And that's starting to, I hope you guys' kettles are smelling as good as mine. They're starting to smell delicious. And this is one of the chicken breasts I froze from the other night when we cooked. And so, as you can see, it's an easy way. I kind of build everything off of, I always try to think ahead so that I can make my life easier. And yes, I make so many dishes, I try to cut down on the dishes.
Smells amazing.
I know. Smells delicious. I'm hungry. And the bread, oh my goodness, guys, this bread is smelling really, really good. And I'm having to sit over the oven, and I can smell the smells coming out to me. So your chicken, we want to make sure there's no pink. I still see pink on mine. That's another reason you want to kind of cut your pieces as approximately the same size. I'm not that anal about it. I do just kind of chop them up. But I've been chopping in the kitchen so much. I am a quick chopper. And it comes from years of practice. And I learned to cook quickly because I used to cook for my dad's mission team in Mexico. And we'd go to Mexico, and I get there. The first year I was naive. Second year I learned. I went 2 days before the rest of the group got there, and I set up my kitchen. Because guess what? I didn't have a kitchen. I had to cook under a tree with a folding table and a stove somewhere else and a sink, maybe just a hose and a baby bath.
Bless you.
Thank you. So I used to go set up, and so I learned I could cut anything and do anything anywhere. I have set on logs, cement blocks, you name it. Cooked on a camp stove. You can cook anywhere and do gourmet meals. Okay, my chicken is just about done. So hopefully you guys is getting close to done. I don't see any more pink. So we're going to add now, we're going to add our flour. You're going to sprinkle this around on top. The importance of this is going to be a slight thickening. And your flour needs to be mixed all over. We're going to cook it, okay? And you need to cook it because flour, you don't want your soup to taste like flour. And if you do not cook it, it will taste like flour. So we're going to cook it for about 1 to 2 minutes. It usually just needs a minute. It will kind of stick to the bottom of your skillet, of your kettle, but that's okay because we're going to use chicken broth to get it off. While that's happening, I'm going to get myself some chicken broth. I do not have a 5-cup measuring cup, so I'm going to have to start with 4. But one of these guys is 4 cups, so I just have to measure 1 cup out in the measuring, and then I just put this in here. And as it goes in, I stir around to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And you want to also keep stirring because you don't want your flour to thicken your your chicken broth or vegetable broth, whichever you're choosing to use. You don't want it to thicken it and make it lumpy. So you need to stir as you put it in. And this guy is not, well, that's because he didn't open right. There you go. So we got 4 cups in. Now we're going to add the other cup. Guys, this is where it gets easy. And we're also going to add our either crushed or fire roasted. I like fire roasted tomatoes. 28 ounces is either you can get it in 1 can or you can get these 2 size cans. I like to make my own fire roasted and freeze them. However, we've already eaten all those, so there is none left. Put in my soup, I had to buy it. Mix it up. And we're also going to add our tomato paste at this point into our soup. And we're going to add our dried, Alexa, turn off. We're going to add our dried tortellini.
Watch how close you're getting things.
Huh?
Watch how close you're getting things to the edge.
Now, you're going to want to turn this up and bring it to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down and simmer it for 10 minutes. I am going to open the oven and take the lid off of my bread. Oh, it's looking good, guys. Oh, smells good too. I'll show you real quick. Look at that.
You can see it.
Huh?
I'll let you know that we can see it.
Okay, put it back in the oven, and we're going to bake it for another 15 minutes without the lid. Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes.
15
Okay.
minutes, starting now.
Okay, back to our soup. So we're going to bring this to a boil. A few things I was going to tell you about why that was doing that. Oh, how to keep your basil fresh. If anybody's had basil, you realize that it gets all slimy and nasty in your refrigerator. When you get it home, cut the stems off at 45-degree angle. Get a little cup or vase and put water in it and sit it out on in a cool place in your kitchen. Change the water every 1 to 2 days, and it'll last for a week or more. And that's the way you can make your basil last longer and not become slimy. You can also do that with asparagus, sage, rosemary, all your herbs and stuff you can do that with. So that's nice and stirred up, and it's taking its sweet time to come to a boil. So, how many of you have a favorite soup recipe that you like to make? Why don't you let Isetta know, and then we can talk about those different soups. Basil also used to be known for curing health issues. They used to use it for digestive problems, headaches, common cold, cuts and burns, etc. The Egyptians used to use it to help embalm their mummies, and the Greeks used it as a sign of mourning. So they would put like basil out around their doors to show that they were in mourning. The name basil, the original scientific name, means royal or kingly herb. And so when you hear someone refer to the kingly herb, they're referring to basil. Also, basil is native to India and has been brought to all these other different places from India. Yes, I love the history of food, just so you guys hadn't figured it out. I actually have a book on it that sits beside my chair in my living room, so whenever I'm bored, I like to read it. So I'm a little weird like that. So,
Do you know the name and the title of the book?
yeah, history of food.
Do you know who wrote it?
I don't.
Oh.
I've had it for probably 25 years.
You should look so next time you can show it.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to bring the book with me next time we cook, next Wednesday, and that way you guys can see it. I don't even know if it's available in print anymore. I mean, with Google, you can Google it now.
Yeah.
But
still, sometimes people like book recommendations.
I'm a person that likes to have my hands on a book, so what can I say? Well, this is not boiling yet.
It's trying to get there.
Yeah,
It's okay if there's, you don't have to talk the whole time.
So this gives you guys a chance to clear off stuff, throw away trash, catch up if you need to. I'm going to throw some of my stuff away, since I know you're looking at my pot and not at me.
Oh, it's starting to bubble.
Oh, good.
Does the watch pot know that we're watching if it's being watched through a camera?
This is true. My grandmother always told me a watch pot never boils. And I used to tell her she was crazy, but I guess she wasn't. The last steps of this soup go very quickly because they don't take long. Oh, I wanted to tell you the reason you don't use fresh tortellini because if you use fresh tortellini in this, it'll fall apart. So that's why we use the dry tortellini. You can use plain cheese also, but I like the cheese and spinach. Okay. It is now what I would call a boil for this soup, almost. What do you guys think?
It was getting there and then you touched it.
Well, I wanted to get the cold stuff mixed around.
Okay.
Okay, I'll leave it alone, I promise. If you have crusty bread, at this point you may want to put it in your oven to start warming it. So it's warm to go with you can toast it or you can just warm it.
You mean bought crusty bread?
Yeah, bought crusty bread, not fresh made.
I don't know if they can hear you all the way in there, Mom.
I'm throwing things. Glad you guys can't see me. Boughten, not fresh made. Yes, I have spoiled children, so they get fresh. Plus, I enjoy making bread, as I told you last. Oh, there we are. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer for my soup, please.
My soup timer, 10 minutes. Starting now.
Okay, now that's gonna there. So continue getting your bread ready. I'm gonna suggest to keep it hot and not dried out. You do put it in foil if it's already made. That'll keep it from getting dry. If you don't put it in foil, it will be dry and nasty.
So you're saying the soup after the soup comes to a boil, you let it boil for 10 minutes?
Yes. What that's doing, what it's doing is incorporating the flavor, and it's also cooking the tortellini. That's mainly what we're doing. And you turn it down to a low simmer. You don't want it boiling at a roaring boil, as I left it on high. And I'd like to say I've never done that before, but it'd be a lie. I'm prone to those kind of mistakes. I get absent-minded because I'm thinking about other things, and that causes the problem. lot of soup, but you can, like I said, break it up and make less. Clean off your counters. Some of you are probably efficient and can load your dishes in your dishwasher while you're waiting. I'm not that efficient, but some people are. Hats off to you guys. I wished I was. Nah, that's too much effort.
Go and track it.
This is a good time to have your music on, talk with your kids, dance with your spouse, your significant other. And you can see it's just going along there. I like to stir it every so often to make sure that the tortellinis that are on top kind of go to the bottom so that all of them get cooked evenly. I don't like my tortellinis overcooked, but I don't like any of my pasta overcooked, and a lot of people like it to the point where I consider it soggy, no chewing needed. I don't like it that way. I like mine on the al dente side. When this gets ready to be finished off, we're going to start with the cheese. We're going to melt it completely. Our cup of cheese, grated cheese, and then we're going to add the fresh spinach and allow it to wilt. And at that point, we're going to add our cream. You can taste it and see if it has enough salt and pepper. I don't like tasting food. I'm not one that cooks by tasting. I cook by smell. I can identify most herbs and stuff just by smelling it. So, I didn't tell you much about my grandmother. I thought I'd tell you today a little bit about my grandmother. She was a pastry chef. She made pies in Idaho at this little cafe. And people would come from all over Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Montana to get her pies. And so when I was a small child, I used to go stay with her for 2 to 3 weeks at a time in the summer. And Grandma taught me to make pies. And she taught me other things. And candy making. Those were her two specialties, candy and pies. She also had her own potato and soup, and then a tomato soup recipe, which I learned to make also. So, I continued making pies, and I learned along the way. And I'll tell you, when your grandmother says at Thanksgiving, she eats a piece of your pie, and she says, "Okay, you're better than me. I'm not making no more pie." You know you've made it. That's my opinion on it. I did inherit both of my grandmother's old cookbooks, which I really, really love, and I don't use them because they're really old and falling apart because they used them so much. They were printed in the early 1900s, and so they're very dear to me with their notes that they wrote in. They cut out newspaper ones and put in there. We live in a different time where everybody just looks online. So it's sad that nobody can inherit that kind of stuff. Oh, this is looking really good. I can tell that my tortellini's getting done. You can kind of see because it's going to start expanding. You cannot cut this step short. Boy, can't talk tonight. So make sure you cook it the full length of time. Do not get impatient. Like I do. Don't do it. So maybe these cooking classes will teach me to be patient. Highly unlikely, but it sounded good. Okay. Oh, smells so good. Oh, I'm starving. I think everybody in my house is starving now. They're like, can we please eat already? So we're not going to be putting a lid on this at all. This soup is just made, like I said, one step after another. That's why I like to prep all the stuff ahead of time. It gives me a chance to clean up while the soup is cooking, so that by the time we sit down as a family to eat, there's not a bunch of cleanup and organization. We can just get our bowls and sit down and eat. And I don't feel like I have ingredients spread all over the kitchen, which happens a lot. So, and of course, since I told Alexa to set a timer, I have no idea how much time I have left.
Alexa, how much time?
You have 2 timers. A 15-minute timer with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left in my soup, with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Okay, so we have about 2 minutes. I'm going to be taking my bread out here in a minute. Woo, it's looking good, guys. I'm going to use this butter I had extra left over, and I'm going right here, and I'm going to spread that on top. Let me see. Let me get a cutting board to put it on so you guys can see it. Now your tortellini should just be soft, not falling apart. So if you start seeing them opening up, it's cooked too long. Also, if you're going to use fresh pasta, say you have fresh tortellini, just do all the steps and put your tortellini in right before you put your milk in. And cook your stuff for 10 minutes, letting your soup heat up really good, and make sure your chicken's getting the tomato base. Alexa, turn off. So that's our crusty bread. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the kettle. Take it over here. I'm going to use a steak knife and thing to take it out so I don't burn myself, because I'm notorious for doing that. I'm going to rub the top with butter. And I'll cut it open so you guys can see what it looks like.
You need to let it set for anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, you're supposed to let it cool. I'll let it cool a little bit. I'll show it to you before I cut it. We'll let it cool for a little bit. Look at that.
Further that way.
Yeah. Oop, okay.
Now my soup timer is done.
Alexa, turn off. Now we're ready to add. Leave it on your simmer. We're going to add our cheese in. Just pour it in and then mix it around good because you don't want it to clump up. Should melt. Mine's already melted. Melts very quickly. Our next step is going to pour our spinach in. Looks like a lot. Mix it in. Just keep mixing it. It's going to wilt as you mix it in. You do not want to cook it a long time at this point after this, because we don't want our spinach dead. Nobody wants canned spinach. Okay, as you can see now, see how it's all wilted down in there? Our next step is going to be to add our cream. If you want to add more salt, this would be the time when you would add salt and black pepper if you want more. So mix your cream in and then taste it if you want to add more. I'm sure mine has enough for my taste, and the family will add accordingly. Not looking delicious? Oh my goodness. Now you have to make sure it's hot. It's hot. You're going to add your basil. Stir it in. Turn off the heat. We're going to serve it up in a bowl. Look at how beautiful that is. Okay, got our soup in there. I'm going to top it with some more basil. Get your extra cheese you grated, sprinkle it over the top, and you're ready to eat. Let me
show the camera a better picture of the soup. Up closer to the camera. Here, too close. Oh, that looks delicious.
Yes, it is delicious. And let's cut the bread. I would show you me cutting it, but that would mean we have to move the camera, so that I'm just going to show it to you.
We're almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done. So here's our bread cut. Look at that. Oh,
Beautiful.
and it smells so heavenly with the rosemary and garlic. Slice up a few pieces and eat it with our soup, and we're ready to go. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week for fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, some kind of a tossed salad probably, and a vegetable. Have a great week and enjoy your soup.